You know what the coolest thing in the world to me was? When I was a kid, it wasn't an interception. I used to go across the track in my neighborhood and there was a swimming pool, right? And I used to go by the swimming pool and I would stand on the fence and I would see a father, and when he would grab a kid, whether it was his son or his daughter, and he would throw the kid up in the air and he would catch him and the kid would laugh, and I would be like, man, I can't wait until I get a family one day so I could throw my kids up and catch them in the pool, right? I can't wait until I can hug my mother with 2 arms, hug my wife, hug my 3 little sisters with 2 arms, and it's things that people take for granted every single day. And so when I said to him physically, I'm like, JD, all of those things are eliminated. I said, but I will use this arm in his hand every day of my life for the rest of my life, because I would never allow a situation or a circumstance to define my life. I said, JD, what better way for God to show up than in the midst of the opposition? What better way for God to prove his power and his grace than in the midst of the adversity? I said, JD, what better way for God to work in the lives of those I'm connected to than in the midst of the opposition? The only thing I've ever done was stay out of God's way and say, God, you're going in that direction? Okay, cool, let's rock. God, you want to do this with my life? Cool, let's rock. I never wanted to speak. They put me in public speaking in college. I dropped the class on the second day. I despised it. As I was walking out of the class, I said to my buddy, I was like, man, I'll never be needing that. And the coach was on the other side of me and he said, Inky, you never know, until the point of complete confusion. Because as people, what do? We try to do? We try to control, like in certain areas of life, they'll call it controlling the narrative, right? When you try to jump out in front of situations, opposition, trouble, and you try to control it. Like if we walked out of this building right now, and we walked down to the high school with 10 people, and we said, okay, when we get to the high school, I want 5 people to go right, I want 5 people to go left. Everybody will probably turn around and say, why? Why do you want me to go left? Why? Why should I trust you to walk down to the high school? We want to control the narrative. We want to know what's next. And so when my injury happened, I'm still trying to control my life. And I said, okay, I'll become a coach. I'll coach. Football, natural transition. I start down the path to become a coach. 3 years in, graduate assistant. My wife is back in Atlanta teaching. She calls me one day and she says, Inky, I'm pregnant. Somehow I got pregnant. I don't know. Somehow it happened. And I go to Coach Fulham. I said, listen, here's the deal. My wife is pregnant. I really need to go back. He said, man, go be there for your family. And I call a guy trying to control the narrative. Me and Pastor was talking about this. He said, God cannot work and God cannot take you where he wants to take you until you allow God to take you where he wants to take you. And most of the time when that happens is when you say, I yield, because you're in such a place of confusion in your life and you can no longer control it. And so it places you in a position to where it has to fortify your faith. And so I called the guy and I said, man, listen, I'm coming to Atlanta. I really need a job. And he worked at the rec center. And he said to me, Inky, you can come, man. You can create curriculums for the kids. I'll pay you $20,000 a year, whatever. And you can just ride off into the sunset. I said, praise God, I'm coming. And I get there the next day and I go up to the gymnasium. I call the guy, he never responds. I email him, never respond. The people there, I give them my resume, my paperwork, and they say to me, oh, you're overqualified. I said, what is that? They say, yeah, you can't work here. And I found myself in my wife's grandmother's home. My wife have our daughter, Jada. Jada's sleeping in a wagon that somebody bought her for her birthday, and we would put pillows in the wagon. And I'm 2 blocks away from where I grew up in that 2-bedroom home with 14 people. And I'm like, God, why did you take me from this neighborhood to the University of Tennessee, play football, get 10 games from the NFL, and bring me right back to the same neighborhood in my wife's grandmother's home with my daughter sleeping in a wagon and no money? And I would get up every single day. My wife would get dressed to go teach. I would get dressed and I would go look for a job, and people would say, you're overqualified. And I knew most of the people were saying this because I got a disability. They were looking at it in terms of, man, I don't know what I can do with this guy. And I was cool with it. I totally understood it. And at the time, the only thing I had was my book. And I had written my book as a journaling process to help me get through my injury. And so I would just journal, I put it in book form, and I really just wanted to give it to my grandmother. And one morning I get up with my wife and we're getting dressed and she's in the mirror and I'm standing there beside her and I say to my wife, babe, you're not gonna believe it. She said, what you got, Ink? I said, I'm headed to Chicago. I'm about to go meet Oprah and give her my book. And my wife looked at me, she said, Ink, you know Oprah? I said, nope. She said, oh, you know anybody at Harpo Studios? I was like, nope. She said, you sure? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, go for it. I had a 2X suit. I had a little bit over $200 to my name, and I had my truck. I went, I jumped in my truck, I'm praying, I'm like, Lord, please don't let me catch a flat. I catch a flat, it's over with. And I start driving, and I get to Chattanooga, and I call my buddy Jeff, that's in Knoxville. Jeff picks up, Jeff's an attorney, he's well off. All right, he's my buddy, I call him, Jeff picks up and says, Ink, what's up? I said, Jeff, you're not gonna believe it. He said, what you got, Ink? I said, man, I'm headed to Chicago to meet Oprah, I'm about to give her a book. Jeff says, oh, Ink, you you know Oprah? I said, no. He said, oh, I get it. Ink, I understand you're a highly ambitious person, but I need you to hang this phone up and call me back when you get to Knoxville. Chances of that happening are slim to none. I call Jeff when I get to Knoxville. Jeff picks up. He says, you're still going, aren't you? I said, yep. He said, stop by and pick me up. I'm gonna ride with you because I don't want you to be too disappointed when it doesn't happen. I pick Jeff up. We get to Chicago that night. Jeff goes up. Jeff gets us a room. Next morning we get up. I go to the front desk. I'm asking for directions. Jeff is standing in the corner getting ready to go work out. I get directions. I'm going to walk out of the building. Jeff jogs over. He says, Ink, wait. He said, I'm going to go with you, man. I'm going to get us a taxi. I don't want you to be too disappointed when it doesn't happen. We pull up to Harpo Studios in the taxi. Place is massive. People everywhere. It's when our last shows were happening. We get out of the car. Jeff says to me, hey, Ink, I'm going across the street to this coffee shop. I'm sure this won't be long. I'll see you in a minute. I get the book. I walk around the building. Every door that will open, I would run into the door. And I would say, hey, man, I'm Inky Johnson. I drove up from Atlanta. I want to open my book. And they would say, get out of here. We don't do that. I said, man, y'all rude. I thought y'all give away cars. Huh? I just got a book. And I got so discouraged. I went around the back of the building and I sat down in the parking lot and I looked up at the sky and I'm like, God, man, my wife's gonna chew me out. And I get up and I go around the side of the building. At this point, everybody has went into the building. And it's one gentleman and he's sitting on the curb and he looks to be a homeless gentleman. And I sit down beside him and I say to him, sir, how are you? He said, man, I'm great. How are you? I said, man, I've seen better days. The irony of the situation. And I look up to my left, and when I look up to my left, coming down the sidewalk was Oprah and her security guard. And I stand up and I fix my suit. I say, here goes, right? And I start walking toward her and they're walking toward me. And I'm thinking in my mind, surely she's gonna send security up, move me out of the way, but I shot my shot. And as I'm walking, they're continuing to come, and she stops dead center in front of me, and she grabs my suit and she shakes it. And she says, this is a nice suit. I said, thank you. I know she was shaking it to see if I had a gun or a knife or something, right? And I said, I'm Inky Johnson. I drove up from Atlanta. I just wanted to bring you my book. She said, thank you. I said, can I take a picture with you? No problem. We take a picture. She says, all right, I got to get in and do my show. I said, thank you very much. And she was walking in to go in the building. Jeff is running. Jeff says, Ink, tell her to wait. I said, no. Oh, yeah, little faith, right? No. Right? Yeah. You're right. Yeah. All right. And I go to walk off, and the security guard says to me, hey, little man. And I stop. He said, come here, I want to tell you something. He said, I just want you to know what just happened never happens. He said, usually she'll send me up and say, move them out of the way, you know, tell them to send their book here and they'll never get it. I just want you to know what just transpired. It never happens. I said, man, thank you so much. Right? I walked off. I sent a picture to friends, family. I put it up on social media, right? And everybody's response was, hey, Ink, are you going to be on the show? Hey, Ink, you're going to be on the book club? Hey, Ink, you're going to be on Super Soul? I was like, I don't know. I don't care. They was like, what you mean you don't know? You don't care? I said, that moment wasn't about that. That wasn't a moment about getting on Oprah's show. I said, I got up that morning. I was trying to see, was God still with me? I was trying to see, was God still with the kid that left Atlanta, Georgia, that had this dream to go to the NFL when he was 7 and got there at 20 years old? I just need to see. It wasn't about Oprah. I just need to see, God, do I still got the connection? God, do you still hear me? And so when it happened, for me, what happened was, in the midst of the moment, it was confirmation when I was hugging her that God was saying to me, Ink, I got you. I got you, Ink. When I got back to Atlanta, people said, Ink, you need to speak. My simple prayer was this: okay, Lord, I'll be obedient. People are telling me I need to speak. I'll be obedient. Send me where you gotta send me. Out of obedience, because in the Bible it says obedience is better than sacrifice, but you give the average person a task, and what's the first thing they'll do? Judge the level of sacrifice without first being obedient. They'll say, what do I gotta give up? What is it going to cost me? And the first trip I got to speak was a 15-hour round trip to Mississippi, driving. And I get back home at 2 a.m. and my wife is standing there. And when I walk in the door, she's standing there. She said, how was it? I said, babe, it was great. She said, what you get? I said, they gave me this cool coffee mug. And she said to me, you sure this is what God called you to do? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, go for it. And I've been doing this for almost 13 years ever since. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you, right? Because as much as it is an honor and a privilege for you all, it's an honor and a privilege for me.
the level of let me take a real step back. If you're sitting in this chair and you want to do something that makes you happy and makes you money, let's just say that. I have no idea what people want in here, but fine. How many people happy money? Raise your hands if you want happy money. Raise it. Don't be scared. Great. Let me ask you a question. If you have the audacity to be happy and have money, which, by the way, the amount of people that have lots of money and are very happy is very small. It just is. If you want to be happy and have money, don't you think it should take a long time and it should be hard, right? That to me has been the most interesting thing. In this world that everything's so fast, and this world where one or two people look like Mark Zuckerberg or Travis, like where you can point to one or two people. You know, I don't know if you heard, there's 7.7 billion of us. But because you can point to one or two people that got it fast and a lot, all of a sudden everybody thinks it should be fast and a lot. At 34 years old, after working for 12 years, helping build my family business, I left my family business and I had no money. 34, no money. How many people here younger than 34? Raise your hands. D-Rock, where are you? Hold on, keep them up. D-Rock, where are you? Yo, right here, come here, look at this. Put the lights on, hands up. Look at this. Every hand here, stand up. Actually, if you raised your hand, stand up. Every person here standing is under 34 years old. When I left Wine Library day to day at 34 years old, I had nothing. When I started VaynerMedia, we started it in Buddy Media's conference room because I didn't have dollars to spend on rent. Imagine how early I think you are in your life. You can sit. Thank you. If you can keep the lights on, I like it. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. My friends, it's early. It's early for 100% of the people in the room. It's ridiculously early for 95% of this room. This internet thing, it's big. It's real big. We haven't even started. Please understand how lucky, that's the only word I have for it, how lucky you are that you get to live during this era. Right now, anything that comes out of your mouth that is complaining makes your grandfather want to punch you in the fucking face. You understand? Do you understand how much better you have it than every generation before you? This is such a ridiculously special time, and literally the far majority of this room is not going to take advantage of it because of the insecurity of worrying about somebody who they don't even know leaving a comment that they're ugly. Are you literally not going to take advantage of the actual ability to be happy and successful because somebody comes on your account and says you're stupid? But this is what's playing out. This is what's happening. I mean, look at different cultures. On the way here, do you know that one of the biggest things that was DM'd here is that there's a lot of people coming here by themselves and they wanted advice how to say hello to somebody that they didn't know? What are you scared of? They're gonna bite you? We are living in a very fascinating time. A very fascinating time. It reminds me of when new countries are born and people buy up real estate. The attention of this room is real estate. You're trying to get it. Everybody's living on these things. It's going to happen more, not less. You can judge it, that's fine, but that's what's going to happen. And so if you are not producing words and videos and sounds for these 7 platforms, you almost don't exist. Now, what you say, though, matters very much. And let me give you a couple advice points from somebody who's really won. The number one thing you have to always do is talk about what you know. I watch people try to talk about stuff they don't know every single day because it's hot. Whether it's cannabis or sports betting or blockchain or social media, people start talking about things they don't know anything about because they're trying to grab. They think they're going to get a fast score. Everybody wants a fast score. Do you know how many people have emailed me crying about buying Bitcoin at 10,000 a coin? Because it was going to be 100,000 in a year. People are looking for fast scores. You know how many people here spent $800 on a course because it was going to happen fast? Fast is bad. Fast is bad. Fast if you have talent and the right intent is amazing. Fast if you want cash immediately. So please understand the world you're living in. Take it into context. Understand how remarkable this era is. Next, this is the most important word. You have to deploy self-awareness. My friends, self-awareness is the most important word. If you don't know who you are, you have no shot. But do not be embarrassed of who you are. When I knew that I was an entrepreneur in the 80s, I got D's and F's in school, and that was not acceptable in the 80s and 90s in America. If you were a bad student in America in the 80s and 90s, you were a loser. My friends' parents looked at me as I was a loser, but I knew who I was. I was self-aware. I knew that I was an entrepreneur. I wanted to go and sell things on the weekend. I wanted to study the prices of wine and baseball cards instead of studying for school. I knew who I was. Playing video games seemed like a waste of time 20 years ago. Now there are people who make $50 million a year playing video games. If there is something you know and you like and you're passionate about, but it's not cool right now or important, do not deviate away from your thing. Triple down on your thing. The other thing is, be self-aware. How many people here are an entrepreneur or want to be? Raise your hands. I'm just curious. It's a lot of hands. The reality is, most of you can't be successful. I mean that. I'm not saying it to razz. It's rare to be a successful entrepreneur. It's hard. It's a real talent. We don't think it's a talent now because it's so easy to say you're one. One of the most important things about being self-aware is knowing, do you have the stomach to be an entrepreneur? Putting entrepreneur in your Instagram account, easy. Living the life of an entrepreneur where nobody else is on the line except you, hard, lonely, scary, difficult. If you do it because it's cool or you think it's right or you're not self-aware, it leads to depression and loss of money. If you deploy self-awareness and realize you're a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, you find an entrepreneur and you win. Self-awareness. You have to understand who you are. Without it, you are massively vulnerable in society. And the fact that we now live in a world where you're more than welcome to be what you are, so much more. Maybe not in your family because your parents want you to be a doctor and a lawyer and an engineer, but in the world, yes. And so I highly recommend self-awareness. It is easily, in my opinion, I believe that self-awareness and the ability to actually give without expectation are the 2 bricks of happiness. And it's been a big factor for me, which has allowed me to go fast. When you're stable, you can go fast because you're not worried about judgment. I've been able to do a lot of things because I'm not scared to lose. Because if I lose, it's my loss. If I lose money or time, it's my loss, not yours. I don't care what you say in the comments. That lack of fear is what gives an entrepreneur an advantage. That lack of fear is what lets somebody live life in happiness. We have to start having more important conversations of the operating system of your life. There are people here that work more on upgrading their phones than upgrading their minds. I mean it. I mean it. I am desperate. Listen, to come here all this way to talk about tactics is a waste of time. To come all this way and have one person in here gain actual courage to do something is super worth it. And for me, it's a very simple game. Let me give a very big secret to all the kids here who are living their lives for their parents or based on their parents' judgment. There's a very big secret that parents never tell you. If you go the other direction of where they want you to go and you become really successful, they are really proud and make pretend they never pushed you in the other direction. The number one thing I fear, and the number one thing I learned, and this is very interesting to me, I'm gonna tell you a story I don't tell a lot. When I was a little kid in Edison, New Jersey, when grandparents came over, I would go play with the grandparents a lot. Maybe it was because I lost 3 of my 4 grandparents as a kid, but even as I get goosebumps right here on stage, it's because I think I've always been filled with a lot of wisdom and old soul. It's just DNA. It's nothing I did, it's just been in me. But I was always gravitating towards old people my whole life. I mean really old. You know, I'm 7, 8 years old, I see an 80-year-old, I run over, sit next to them, and talk. My whole life, I loved it, my whole life. And the number one thing I learned in the first 20 years of my life, spending more time with old people than most kids, is the biggest thing I fear is regret. Regret is scary. Resentment is very scary. The biggest reason I push kids to do what they want versus what their parents want is because I'd rather them and their parents have 5 or 6 or 7 years of bad than 80. Because it gets very ugly when you're 60 and they're 80 and you lived your life based on what they wanted and now you resent them. It gets real ugly real fast. I would rather you have the pain for the next 5 or 6 years of fighting and then have one of 2 things happen, which I think both are amazing. Number 1, you were right. You were right and you are an amazing fashion designer, not an engineer, and you built a real company and your parents are going to be very, very proud. Or you were wrong. You suck at fashion design. Nobody liked it, but at least for yourself, you never have to live the rest of your life asking yourself, what if? You win both ways. You live in a culture, I know, I watch. You live in a culture with a lot of expectations. You live in a culture where parents treat their kids as a property that indicates who they are. So does most of the world. This is not a Southeast Asia thing. This is not a Indonesia thing. This is a world thing. Parents are insecure too, and they like their kids is closing their gap. We have to start talking about this because now that it costs $0 to start a Spotify podcast, now that you can do that at 9 p.m., now there's nothing left. In 1974, not having money and time was an excuse. In 2019, it is not.
Success, guys, is a very, very lonely road, man. Along that road, you're not gonna see too many friends. You're gonna see your shadow most often. See, the thing is, for many people, they've tried the same path you're on, and they failed. As you walk this journey, you're gonna see carcasses all over the place of people that didn't quite have it. How do you know you're on the right path? Where do you go to ensure that? If today you never say good enough, tomorrow you'll always have enough. It's not the title that makes you. It's not the success that makes you. The character defines the success, defines the fame, and it starts right there. Championships aren't won in the theater or the arena. They're won in the thousands of hours in the training room, in the labs, in the 5 a.m. runs, when it's raining, when everyone else is sleeping. That's when it's won. It's how you look at something. If your name's attached to it, that you do it right, the best of your ability every single time. The heart of a champion is a light switch that's always on. It doesn't go on and off if someone's watching. It's constant. How you hold yourself in the small things of life. Build the character winning blocks of the things that we'll remember for.
Isn't it funny how you can find yourself in a state that you're really not supposed to be in? Maybe you're not in a physical cemetery, but you're in a spiritual cemetery. You're just in a dead place. Let me talk to you a minute, because I know you all have never been in a dead place. But I know what it is to be in a dead place. I know what it is to get up and get dressed and put on my clothes and drive to work and nobody know that I'm living in a dead place. I know what it is to paint a smile on my face just because I know you're looking at me and you expect me to smile and keep to myself the secret that right now I am living in a dead place. When you find yourself living in a dead place, you are so excommunicated from everybody around you that it's hard for people to reach you when you're living in a dead place.
See, I say if you look at your life, and if you're not getting what you want, you owe it to yourself to do something differently. 85%, they say, of Americans go to jobs that they're unhappy. If you're doing something 8 hours a day that you don't like, it's not giving you what you want, it's not giving you a strong feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. If that's what it is, you owe it to yourself to start strategically working to change directions. Most people will resist change. Most people will fight change as if change would be worse than what they're experiencing.
I'm wondering if there's any brothers in here who have broken restraints, gone over the limit. People told you this is as far as you're supposed to go, but you find yourself going beyond the limit. People who love you try to tell you you're going too far, but you won't listen because you're a grown man. You can do what you want to do whenever you want to do it and go wherever you want to go. Have you ever seen independence get somebody in trouble? Too much freedom can be a dangerous thing. It's a good thing to have some discipline in your life, to set some boundaries and say, I don't go past this point.
Taking responsibility for whatever happens to you. Knowing that you have consciously made the decisions that are now affecting you. Knowing that what is happening now, today, is the direct result of your activity, what you did yesterday. Self-reliance is basically counting on yourself. Now, being self-reliant doesn't mean you can't work with others or trust others. Self-reliance means counting on yourself, trusting yourself, being confident with yourself, being responsible to yourself, trusting your own instincts.
We all have people that come against us, make negative comments. Human nature is to get in there and try to straighten them out, prove to them how they're wrong. We think we have to defend ourselves. After all, that's our reputation. But the problem with this approach is as soon as you get one person straightened out, 3 more will pop up. There will always be somebody that's against you, somebody that's trying to make you look bad. If you're constantly trying to defend yourself, you'll get distracted fighting battles that you were never supposed to fight. It's easy to get baited into conflict, thinking, did you see what they said about me on social media? I'm gonna show them who they're messing with. Do you know how much energy it takes to try to pay somebody back? You are spending emotional energy that you need for your dreams, for your goals. Here's the key. Quit worrying about the chatter, the negative comments. Those are all distractions. That's the enemy trying to bait you off course so you'll waste your time and energy involved in battles that don't matter.
Success, many will love you for it. The majority will hate you. Because your success makes them feel insufficient in their current endeavor. Reminds them of where they could have done it, but they came up short, and how they didn't revisit it. The difference between a winner and a loser, with failure's there every single time. It's just the winner gets back up, does it again, and does it again, until it goes his way. So now you're down that path and you're all alone. How do you know you're on the right path? How do you know what you're doing is in the right direction? Look at the small things of life. How do you do that?
If you decide to take the initiative to change the current quality of your life, I say to you that you will find that the universe is on your side, that life is on your side. Now, would it be easy? No, no. Will you have some opposition? Yes. See, a lot of people won't try anything different in life because they don't want to get hurt. Let me tell you something. It's too much pain to duck. Pain is everywhere. Viktor Frankl calls it unavoidable suffering. You can't duck it. But most people spend their life not wanting to deal with the pain of rejection, the pain of being disappointed, the pain of losing, the pain of failure, the pain of not being liked, the pain. That's called life. Life is full of pain. It's everywhere. But guess what? There's no gain without pain.
Gestalt psychologists give an example of being self-reliant. They say that you're responsible for getting caught in the rain. They say that by deciding not to carry an umbrella every day, you have made the decision to endure an occasional drenching. Translation? By not being prepared, you make the choice of getting caught in some of life's unpleasant circumstances. Be they rain, failures, economic losses, relationship losses, professional losses, personal losses. By not being prepared, thinking ahead, it's your choice. Now here's the other side of it. By being prepared, you increase your chances of success. You increase the likelihood. By being prepared, you increase your chances of success, of seizing opportunities when they come your way, of being ready within yourself to take advantage of once-in-a-lifetime situations. Some people tend to blame others for their mistakes, blame others for their failures. Somebody says, it's not my fault the report isn't done, so-and-so didn't do their part. Of course it's your fault. It's your report too. It's your responsibility to see that everyone you delegated work to does their part. Now, you can't control what others around you do, but it's in your own best self-interest, your enlightened self-interest, that you stay on top of things, especially if it's going to affect your future. You think your boss cares that John didn't do his part? You think he sees John as the bad guy? Of course not. All he sees is that the report isn't done, bottom line. Be responsible for the things that affect you. You can make sure you're more responsible by checking in with those people who are working with you, the people who make up your team. You can be more responsible by saying, hey John, how are you doing with your part? Do you need some help? Can we put somebody else in here to help you finish? Now, if John consistently doesn't handle his part, you've got to replace John. If he isn't doing his share, you've got to find somebody that will. Or what? It will negatively affect you. You can't wake up in the morning that the project is due hoping and wishing that John has done his part. No, you've got to be responsible because it's going to affect your career too. Now, my approach to my better future very early on in my career was to just go through the day with my fingers crossed. And I used to say something like, I sure hope things will change for the better. Then here's what I found out. They're not going to change. Somebody says, well then, how will my life ever change? Answer, when you change. When you change, when you get better, it'll get better. If you change, it'll all change. Don't put it on someone else. Hope that someone else will change it for you.
So many of us, we think that Friday is when life begins. We think Friday, when we stop working, is when we can be happy. Can we turn Monday into the new Friday? You ought to wake up every single day of the week. Doesn't matter if it's Friday, doesn't matter if it's Saturday. You ought to wake up and say, devil, not today. It's Monday, and I got a vision for my life. When I retire, then I will be happy. When I can finally cease working. The only problem is, as you start to study research, what you'll discover very, very quickly is that when people retire, you know that the death rate increases? When people retire, depression increases. What if the thing you despise is keeping you alive?
The first reason why people hold back in life is because they keep putting their life on the back burner. They keep waiting till later to start living the life that they were meant to live. Because we all think that we got infinite time. We all think that we've got this enormous amount of time. Well, let me tell you something. If you keep waiting to live your life, eventually it's going to pass you by. Eventually, everything that you wanted to accomplish is going to just pass you by if you never find the confidence, or never find the hope, or never find the will, or the belief that says you should try to do this. I see so many people out there that are like, I have a goal, but I can't do that right now. I want to pursue my dream, but we live in a pandemic. I see a whole bunch of people out there who have a dream, but they're too scared to go after it.
It begins right now with no one looking, man. How you hold yourself, how you see yourself. What do you do when no one's watching? If you do it then, I guarantee you, you'll be doing it when everyone's watching.
Take responsibility for yourself. Take personal responsibility. You can't change the circumstances or the seasons or the wind, but you can change your reading habits. You can change whether or not you go for the skills, burn the midnight oil, turn yourself around, multiply your value by 2, 3, 5, 10. That you've got charge of. That you have control of. You don't have control of the constellations, but you've got control over whether or not you go to night school, take adult classes, learn some new skills. You have control over that. And if you don't, that's your fault. You've got to take personal responsibility. You've got to be self-reliant. You. Nobody else can change your life, alter your ambitions, pave a golden road for you. But you can. It's up to you. Be responsible for yourself. Learn to reap the harvest without complaint. This is a sign of growing maturity. And here's where it comes from: taking full responsibility. Take full responsibility for everything you do. Be responsible to yourself. It's your crop. Whatever your paycheck is, take full responsibility. You say, well, it's my employer. No, it's not your employer. You can become twice as valuable, 3 times as valuable. Burn the midnight oil, learn some more skills, bring more value to the marketplace. I'm telling you, whatever your harvest is, take it without complaint. Take it without blaming others. Self-preparation leads to control over your life. We discussed this in the last session. Whenever you prepare correctly, taking all of the steps you're supposed to take, doing everything in your power to stay on track, whenever your preparations lead to success, achieving your goals, you reinforce the disciplines that got you there. Success leads to reinforcement of the proper disciplines. If what you're doing is working, keep doing it. If what you're doing isn't working, change it. When you are doing all that you can possibly do and are successful at reaching your expectations, keep doing it. Success is a reinforcement. Psychologists call this positive reinforcement. We all know about positive reinforcement. That's how we train our dogs. That's how we teach our kids. That's how the trainers at SeaWorld can get a killer whale to do tricks and follow commands and work side by side with humans by positive reinforcement. When you bring a brand new puppy home and try to teach him not to mess in the house, what do? You reward him for going outside or scratching at the door. When you're trying to get your toddler out of the diaper stage, what do? You reward her with special presents, make her feel special for learning something new. When you're trying to get your older kids to crack the books and study, what do? You reward them when they get good grades. You teach them that the skills they are developing now will have great positive effects on their lives later. But you reward them now. This is positive reinforcement. Learning that there are rewards for doing something good, something worthwhile, something of value. The greater the value, the greater the reward. The better you do, the better your reward. The greater the value, the greater the reward. A bigger paycheck, a better house, financial freedom. It's all a reward system. Now, there are two major benefits of positive reinforcement. Number one, positive reinforcement builds good habits. If what you are doing, the habits you've gotten into, are building your ambition and increasing your success, keep doing them. Your success is reaffirming that these habits are good. Your success tells you that you need to keep doing what you are doing. By reviewing these habits that bring on success, you reinforce them, give them sticking power. Now here's the other side. By reviewing your habits, what you do every day, by reviewing your habits, you may find out that some of them are inhibiting your success. You may find out that what you're doing every day is bad for you. Or you may realize that you've gotten out of some very good habits. Somebody says, well, I've just gotten out of the habit of taking my daily walk around the block. Well, I guess you'll just have to get in the habit of being sick down the road. Somebody says, well, I used to read the books all the time. I've just gotten out of the habit. Then change it. Go back into your disciplines. If you've just gotten out of the habit, just get back into the habit. It's called discipline. If it doesn't work, don't do it any longer. You can keep your fingers crossed if you want to and hope that it'll all straighten out. You can wish for the wind not to blow quite as severely, to change in your favor, but we call that naive at best. If the habits that you've gotten into aren't serving you, change them. You can't keep doing this any longer. Don't wish for a better wind. The key is to wish for the wisdom to set a better sail. Utilize whatever wind that blows to take you where you want to go. That is the philosophy I picked up at age 25, and it revolutionized my whole life. And here's what I found. I found it was easy. I became a millionaire when I was 31, and I found it was easy. Now here's my definition of easy. It was something I could do. I figure if it's something you can do, it's easy. But here's a little parenthesis. I worked hard at it. I made sure my disciplines were in line. I made sure my habits were good. I made sure I did all that I could. I found something that I could do, but I worked hard at it. I got up early, stayed up late, and worked hard from age 25 to 31. But what I did was easy, meaning it was something I could do. Well, you say, Mr. Rohn, if it was so easy, how come during those 6 years, all those other people around you didn't get rich? Here's why. It's easy not to. How else would you describe it? That's it. It's easy to keep doing the things that don't work. It's easy to keep bad habits. It's easy not to develop the disciplines. It's easy not to. So how come I got rich and they didn't? Here's a philosophical phrase. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. That's the difference between success and failure, between daydreams and ambitions. Here's the key formula for success. A few disciplines practiced every day. And those disciplines have to be well thought out. What should you spend your time doing? Don't waste your time on things that aren't going to matter. But a few simple disciplines can change your whole economic future. Future with your family, future with your business, future with your enterprise, your sales career, your management career. A few simple disciplines, a few simple habits, good habits, repeated every day. Now here's the formula for failure. Errors in judgment, repeated every day. All you've got to do is to have a few errors in your judgment and repeat them every day. I'm telling you, they'll spin out of control in 10 years. You'll end up driving what you don't want to drive, wearing what you don't want to wear, living where you don't want to live, earning what you don't want to earn. A few errors every day, bad habits every day, it's disastrous. Now here's why it's easy to repeat an error in judgment. Because failure doesn't fall at the end of the first day. Bad habits don't show their horrible results at the end of the first day, or the first week, or the first month. It's easy to get faked out. If disaster fell on us at the end of the first week, we'd change our philosophy. But it's so subtle. Errors in judgment, bad habits. They're so subtle. They get you a little off course, a little off course, a little off course. You keep drifting off course, and all of a sudden you're caught. So you've got the choice right now of one of two easies. Easy to do or easy not to do. I can give you in one sentence how I got rich by the time I was 31. I did not neglect to do the easy things I could do for 6 years. I did not neglect. That's the key. I found something easy I could do that led to fortune, and I did not neglect to do it. The major reason for not having more of what you want in America, more health, more money, more power, more influence, more everything, the major reason is simple neglect. Neglect. And if you don't take care of neglect, it becomes an infection, and then it becomes a disease. So if you're in the habit of not doing it, doing all it takes to get ahead, get in the habit of doing it. Doing all it takes. That's the first benefit of positive reinforcement, building good habits. Now, the second benefit of positive reinforcement is that it creates the energy to fuel additional achievement. It gives you the drive to do more, to not only keep on doing what's right, but to do more of what's right. The disciplines that will help you grow and get ahead of it all. The knowledge that what you're doing is paying off creates more energy to keep going. How easy is it to get up in the morning when you know you're not doing all that it takes? It's not very easy at all. You can just lay there awake thinking, oh, what's a few more minutes in bed? It won't matter much anyway. Wrong. It does matter. It will matter. Now, how easy is it to get up in the morning when you're pouring it on, doing the best you can, anxious to get going, make progress toward your dreams? It's a whole different story. When you're resting to renew your reserves, it's much different than resting to avoid your day. When you're psyched up and excited for your life, when you're excited for what you've planned to accomplish for the day, it's amazing. You'll wake up before the alarm clock even tries to startle you awake. Your successes fuel your ambition. Your successes give you extra energy. Your successes pave the way for more successes. It's the snowball effect. With one success, you're excited to meet another, and another, and another. And pretty soon, the disciplines that were so difficult in the beginning, the disciplines that got you going, are now part of your philosophy.